ToyTractorTimes.com is at the 2014 St. Louis Farm Toy Show, and we're here with Hector Matthys looking at some modified John Deere four-wheel drives.
Hello everybody. The first one over here on the right is a small frame John Deere, either 30, 40, or 50 series repower unit, very similar to a Kinze repower with an 855 Cummins in it. This is my first one of the projects that we'll see here today, and there's a Kinze repower brochure out there that gives pretty good information on how much frame length was added, because you may be familiar with the John Deere engine was actually part of the tractor frame. So in a repower, the Cummins engine didn't have those same features to support the tractor, so they built a subframe in most situations to handle that, and that allowed them to lengthen out the tractor, give it a little bit better balance front to rear, and give them more room to put the engine in. So I was able to work on that tractor, scratch built an engine, cast that, reworked the hood from the original one, filled the seam, extended it out. One of the smaller details you may notice is that on the actual repower, the hood was fiberglass and it did not have an indentation in for the decals. It was just flat all the way around, so you'll notice that hood is this way. Also, whether it's a 30 series on up through the 50 series, they put lights in the front of all of them versus only the 50 series from the factory on Deere. So that was the project that got me started. Since I had built the engine for that, I also wanted to do an 8850, which was the larger frame Deere four-wheel drive of that era, but I didn't have the information at the time. I was lucky enough last spring to come across an 8850 that had a repower in it, and I was able to get accurate dimensions on it, so I was pretty excited to be able to move forward with that part of the project. And this one is a little bit more subtle. They only added about 7 inches to the frame, which if you notice there's a little bump of white plastic on the front of the cab. That's what the 7 inches scales out to. The smaller frame definitely had a lot more length added to it, more like 18 inches or something like that. I can't remember exactly right offhand. They put the same 855 Cummins in it. It did have a higher horsepower rating. You could spec it out to either 400 or 450 depending on what you wanted to do. Again, the engine was integral to the tractor frame, so they built a subframe when they repowered it. And that's how you got the 7 inches extra length. Also, in this one, the hood ended up getting raised up a little bit. So if you look at that white bump on the front of the cab again, you can see how it angles up a little bit. That's because the hood, if they would have kept it at the same, that raised level, even though it was only about 3 inches, it would have ran into the cab glass and the door. So a little bit different and unique relative to the last one, you can see that the indentation is still on there for the decals. They reused the John Deere hood. It appears that they reused the grill, and then they built new panels behind it, similar to what this hood is casted here, to get the radiator and the openings for the engines in the right spot. Like I said, it uses the same basic motor. The exhaust systems are pretty similar. The air intakes are pretty similar. Battery boxes are both moved in between the engine and the cab. I'll turn this around to give you a little bit of detail on the other side. So then moving on to the last tractor in the row here. This is the same as the middle tractor, other than the fact that it's a completed tractor. So you can see how the engine is painted black. We've got some detail paint on the turbo and the beginning of the exhaust pipe where it started to burn that up a little bit. Also on the manifold coming off the engine. The engine is actually casted in 3 separate parts. The first is the main block, the air inlet manifold, etc. The second is the front gear train and some of these accessories on the right-hand side. And then the third is the manifold, turbos, exhaust bellows, and inlet U-pipe. If you look real close, you can see the radiator hose connection from the thermostats over to the radiator. This one that's completed here has the front hinges very similar to what the repower hood would have had. A John Deere hood of that era was not front tilting like that. For a little bit of extra detail, I changed the hitch from the original Erdl to something that's a little bit more of a scale size. Probably still a little oversized, but looks a little bit better. And then I also cut out some of the articulation stops to make it a little bit better turning.
That is an impressive project. We always enjoy seeing what you come up next, and it's not always combines. It can be some big muscle tractors too.
Yep. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed a little bit about John Deere repowers and some of this mid-80s to late 70s power and getting it to the ground and not having to spend a big bill in the John Deere shop and deciding to spend your money someplace else for something you felt was a little bit better investment to get your horsepower reliably into your operation.
Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you at the next show.
Thanks for your time, everybody.